Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Victoria, and today we are going to be talking about some of my Autobuy authors. So I think that I've done a video like this previously, but it was a while ago, like a long time ago, like in the start of my channel a long time ago, so don't go watch it because I'm probably really awkward in it. But I thought that it would be fun to do an updated version because they've probably changed quite a bit, or some of them have been added, some of them have been removed. Some of them are still here. So I thought that it would be fun to do this video, and to make it just a little bit more interesting, I am going to also recommend one of my favorite books by each of the authors. I would say my favorite book by each author, but these are my all-time favorites. A lot of these are all-time favorite authors, and it's gonna be really difficult to pick just one. So I'm gonna go with my favorite book right now. What I'm feeling today is my favorite book. It could change tomorrow, but these are all going to be like 5-star books that I absolutely loved. So that is gonna be that. So that's gonna be today's video, so I hope that you enjoy it, and I am gonna start right now. Okay, so the first author that I'm gonna mention is one who was probably not on the last list that I did, and that is Devney Perry. I recently have been really into Devney Perry. Just in the last couple of months, I've read almost her entire backlist. The first book that I read by her was actually Riffs and Refrains in the Hush Notes series. I found her that way because I love Serena Bowen, and so when I saw that Serena Bowen was writing the Hush Notes series, I decided to read the rest of the series, and that's how I first discovered Devney Perry. And I absolutely love her books. She has a lot of books. I recently was actually able to do an interview with Devney Perry on Jess from Peace Love Books channel, so I'll actually link the interview down below if you want to go watch it. Devney is an absolutely amazing human, and so is Jess, so you should go and watch that interview. But in that interview, Devney Perry mentions that she has something like 40 books, so that is a lot in her backlist, and I think I have 7 more left to read by her. And she tends to write a lot of small town romances. A lot of her books take place in Montana because it's where she's from. And she has a lot of different tropes, but my favorite ones by her are probably her single parent ones. She has a lot of single parent romances, and I think that she does them so well. She is also one of the only authors who can make surprise pregnancy amazing. And I have just recently actually did a surprise pregnancy romance recommendations video, and 2 Devney Perry books were on that list. So I really, really love her, and the book that I'm going to recommend as my favorite from her is going to be, I'm actually going to go with Riffs and Refrains because it is one of my favorites, and it was the first one that I read by her. It is one of my definitely top 3 favorite Devney Perry romances, I think. And this one is a single parent romance, which is why I thought it would be fun to recommend it. But this one is about a heroine who is a drummer for a rock band, and she hasn't been home to her family's small town in like a really long time, like 10 years or something like that, maybe even longer, because her parents did not support her rock music career. But she ends up coming home because her grandmother passed away, and she wants to go to the funeral. Because of her family members, the only one that she's spoken to in the last 10 years is her grandmother. She very much loved her grandmother, and so she decides to come back to her small town for her grandmother's funeral and be put in the very awkward position of seeing her family again, and also seeing her high school first love, who she left behind when she left the town. And he is a single father, and they have a second chance romance, and it is very, very good. I absolutely loved it and would very highly recommend it. It also made me cry, so there's that. The next author that I'm going to recommend is Eden Finley. She is, I've read actually I think every single book in her backlist. She writes romances, and she writes a lot of hockey romances, but she does have different ones. She has a whole series of military romances. She has a whole series of sports romances in general. She has a football one, she has a hockey one, she has a baseball one, I think, actually. and I very, very much love her books. They are very fun, very low pressure, although some of them do deal with harder topics, but they are always ones that I can go into and know that I'll have a good time reading them. Her humor is something that I really appreciate in her books, and they're just fun. Her characters are so lovable, and I just adore them so much. I also very much love and have read all of her books that she's co-written with Saxon James, and so they do a great job as co-authors. But the book that I'm going to recommend by Eden Finley is Deke from the Fake Boyfriend series. This is her series. A lot of the books are fake dating. It's called the Fake Boyfriend series, so almost all the books are fake dating in the series. And this one I think is book 3 or 4 in the series, but you can totally read it as a standalone. And it is a hockey romance, and it follows Lennon and Ollie. And Ollie is a professional hockey player, and he is a closeted professional hockey player. He is out to his family, to his friends, but because he is a professional hockey player, he's not out in the society in public or with his hockey team. And so he has had this relationship for a very, very long time, but it's a closeted relationship, and the partner that he's with is very much like, I can't take it anymore, and they end up breaking up. And his family is very close and is very like kind of pushy, and so they're at a dinner together, and his family's like, when are you gonna date somebody new? When are you gonna date somebody new? When are you gonna date somebody new? And he's just like at his wit's end basically, and he ends up going to the bathroom and meeting a guy named Lennon, who is also gay, understands the struggle, and agrees basically, or offers to go up to his family and introduce himself as his fake boyfriend. And like thinking, oh, we're never gonna see them again, but it'll get your family off your back for a little bit, and then you can just tell them we broke up. Turns out that Lennon is actually a sports reporter. He would never out somebody, so that's not an issue, but he is a sports reporter, and he gets transferred to hockey. And so Ollie sees him again, freaks the fuck out because this guy now knows his secret, and his family sees him again, and he has to continue to pretend to be his fake boyfriend. It's amazing. It's my favorite in the Fake Boyfriend series, and one of my top favorite Eden Finley books. The next author that is an auto-buy for me is Sarah J. Maas. This one is interesting because although Sarah J. Maas is one of my all-time favorite authors, I have never read the Throne of Glass series. I know. So that's a little weird. And I will eventually read it. It's on my TBR, I promise. I read book 1 before the rest of the books even came out, like a really long time ago. But I will eventually get to the Throne of Glass series. But I do absolutely love and adore Sarah J. Maas's writing, and I've read her whole ACOTAR series, and I've read the Crescent City, the 2 books that are out in the Crescent City series, and I absolutely love them, and will continue to read and devour all of her books. She writes fantasy. I don't want to say it's young adult because it really isn't young adult, but it's not overly adult, and the fantasy elements of it are interesting but easy to understand. They're not like overly complicated or overly like thought-provoking, like in a good way, where you're not sitting there going, what the fuck is happening? It's much more of a, I can follow it, it's a fantasy, but you're immersed in the world. The worlds that she creates are amazing. The characters are like people, I will fight people for these characters. Like they can do no wrong, honestly. And so it is fantastic and would very highly recommend her writing. She writes very long books, but they're dense, they're great, they're amazing. My favorite Sarah J. Maas book is House of Earth and Blood, which is Crescent City book 1. I have read it 5 or 6 times, despite the fact that it's like 600 pages. And it is a urban fantasy. It takes place in a city about a woman named Bryce who is half fae, half human, and her best friend Danica has recently been killed, and Bryce is struggling with the grief of that, and then also is trying to figure out who killed Danica with the help of a angel named Hunt. Had to think about that for a second. An angel named Hunt who is assigned to help her by the governor of the city. And it's amazing. It's so good. It's amazing. Oh, wow. Another book that makes me cry. I very much don't cry during books, but another one that makes me cry every time I read it. The next author is Gianna Darling. I absolutely love Gianna Darling. The first book that I read by her was Welcome to the Dark Side. I was recommended it multiple years ago, I think in 2020, by Jess from Peace Love Books. So thanks, Jess, for introducing me to Gianna. But I have now read her entire Fallen Men series. I've read her Anti-Heroes in Love duet, and I adore it. I'm very much working my way through. I would like to go back and read her Enslaved, I think it's what it's called, duet. And I love her books. I'm very sad that Caution to the Wind, the next one in the Fallen Men series, has been postponed for so long. I hope that we do eventually get it like soon, but I understand why she's been putting off releasing it. But she's an amazing writer. She has a poetic writing style where everything is written so beautifully. Her books are dark. They deal with very dark, taboo elements. The Fallen Men series is a motorcycle club romance series, and so they deal with death, with violence, with very dark elements, and yet she writes these scenes so beautifully, and that the writing, I would almost describe the writing as flowery. I don't hope you know what I mean by that, where it's very like lyrical and beautiful writing style, and it makes these very dark scenes so beautiful almost. I don't feel too hurt or uncomfortable by the darkness of the books because the writing helps with that. I don't know if I'm explaining that well, but that's how I feel when I read her books, and I absolutely love them. My favorite Gianna Darling book is probably still Welcome to the Dark Side, but the one that I'm going to recommend actually is Lessons in Corruption, because it is one that really took me by surprise. I actually read it after reading the rest of the Fallen Men series, even though it's book 1, and that is it is a student-teacher romance. I was worried going into it because it is a student-teacher romance, and then that used to make me uncomfortable. Oh, how times have changed. But Lessons in Corruption is a student-teacher romance with a more dominant younger man, where the heroine is older, but she's still like the submissive aspect. The hero is still the dominant one, which I think is why I really liked this book, and why it really worked for me was because although there is an age gap and the heroine is older, the hero is 18 and also is progressively following the heroine. Like he is the one that's initiating everything. He is the one that's very much going for the heroine, which I thought was great. He also is a poet. His name is King. He is the son of Zeus, who is the president of the motorcycle club, and him and Cress are so great together. I absolutely love them. And also she is the one, I have the if I can get it off the shelf, I have the female editions, the hardbacks of the Fallen Men series, and based on my mood, I face only one outwards because I only have enough space to turn one facing outwards, and this is the one that's faced outward right now because I think that she's sexy. Isn't she beautiful? Oh, love her. And I love the book and would very much recommend it. Another author who is an Autobuy for me is Mariana Zapata. Mariana Zapata writes very long books. They are incredibly slow burn, but they are so good. I actually discovered Mariana Zapata through Lacey from Lacey Book Lovers, also in 2020, I believe. And I absolutely love her books. I've read almost her entire backlist. There are 2 books that I haven't read by her, hands down, and also the one that just recently came out, which is like a superhero one, I think. And I absolutely love her books. She, like I said, has this slow burn books, so that the books are very not spicy or not like there's no sex scenes in them. There's like one in the last freaking chapter, like all the way at the end, usually. But she has this way of making the books so incredibly like steamy without sex scenes, and I think it's done incredibly well. It reminds me of the like tension and like build up and like sexiness of old school romances, and it has that like Darcy hand flex energy where these small elements of things, these small touches, small looks, small like almost touches are so incredibly sexy and build so much sexual tension between the characters that by the time they actually like get together at the end of the book, I'm like dying for it because they're built up so much, and I think it's done incredibly well. I absolutely love them. I think the one that I'm going to recommend is going to be From Luke Off with Love. This is a enemies to lovers ice skating romance, and it is fantastic. They are the heroine is an Olympic hopeful, and the hero is actually an Olympic medalist, and he needs a new partner. And he asks the heroine to be his new pairs partner, and they have to work together to win an Olympic medal, and it's incredibly good. Okay, I am running out of time. This video is gonna be so long. Okay, I have so many more. The next one is Sophie Lark. Sophie Lark writes mafia romances. I discovered her last year from Jenn from the book Refuge. Thanks, Jenn. And I absolutely love her books. They are incredibly written. They are so interesting. I've read her entire Brutal Birthright series this year, and I cannot wait to read her Kingmakers series. And the book that I'm actually going to recommend by Sophie is Ivan, and this one is the first one that I read. It's actually in the Underworld series, and it is about a heroine who's an assassin who's sent to kill the head of the Russian mafia, and she actually gets very, very close before he is able to capture her, and then he holds her in his dungeon, and then they fall in love. And it's an amazing romance between two characters who are so incredibly powerful and incredibly strong and end up forming the absolute best team together, and they have an amazing partnership, and I think it's done so well. Next one is another really recent one that is also thanks to Jess from Peace Love Books, and that is Catherine Cowles. I've now read the entirety of the Tattered and Torn series that is currently out, and I've read also the entirety of the Sutter Lake series, and I absolutely love them. They are small town romances with a suspense element, and they are incredibly done. I very, very much love them. They're addicting. I just wanted to keep reading them. I read the entire Sutter Lake series, which is I think 5 books in like 1 week. It was fantastic. I love the Tattered and Torn series and the family aspect that she is able to, I wanted to like be part of their family. And I absolutely love them. And the book that I'm going to recommend is, I think I'm going to go with Tattered Stars, which is the first one in the Tattered and Torn series. And this one is about a heroine whose father kidnapped the hero's little sister when they were little, and the heroine actually told on her father. And then she left the town because everyone hated her family, and she doesn't associate with her family at all, but she moves back multiple years later, and she ends up having a romance with the hero, who is the older brother of the young girl that the heroine's father kidnapped. It's great. Really, really love it. And would highly recommend it. Another one is one that if you have been on my channel for a long time, you will know, and that is Amy Dawes. I really love Amy Dawes. Amy Dawes writes, my favorite Amy Dawes books are sports romances, but she also writes the Wait With Me series, which is like a small town sort of element to it, where it's just like friend groups. Amy Dawes has found family friend groups and family groups amazingly. She does them so well. They're so fun. Her humor is something that I absolutely adore. She has this just like very fun and funny way of doing things. Her sex scenes are great, by the way. She just has these absolutely amazing addictive quality to her books. My one that I'm going to recommend is going to be, I'm going to actually recommend Payback, which is about the heroine who comes to England for her cousin's wedding, and her boyfriend has recently cheated on her with her stepsister, and she wants to get back at him, and so she goes to this wedding, gets set up with a South African soccer player, professional soccer player named Roan, and they end up having a one-night stand, and she decides to film it in order to try and send it to her ex-boyfriend and make him jealous, basically. And she's like, actually decides that she's not going to do that because she's like, that's not a good thing to do. I shouldn't do that. But then misses the pause button on the video and ends up accidentally filming the whole thing. And then she keeps it and doesn't actually delete it because it makes her feel sexy. And so then she ends up moving to England and running into Roan again and forming a relationship with him while also having this secret recording of them together. It's great. Would recommend. Another one who I actually think is really very similar to Amy Dawes in a humor way is Lauren Rowe. Lauren Rowe writes a lot of rock star romances, and it makes sense because Lauren Rowe used to work in the music industry, and a lot of her audiobooks in her Rockstar series actually have music that she wrote in them, which I think is awesome. She is another one who does family really well. I really like her Morgan Brothers series. But my favorite thing I think about Lauren Rowe is her humor. And the book by Lauren that I'm going to recommend is the Reed Rivers trilogy. This one is 3-book series that follows Reed Rivers and his love interest, whose name I think is Cassandra, something like that. And Reed Rivers is a very high, like, executive. That's him right there. He is a bigwig executive for a music recording company called River Records that he owns and runs. And he's known for being kind of like sort of like a shark. He very much is good at like spotting talent, and he's very blunt. Think like Simon Cowell-esque back in the day when he was actually mean, where he would actually tell it to you like it is, because he's very incredibly intelligent in the music industry. He knows what's going to sell records, and he knows what is like not gonna do well. And he ends up having a 3-book long romance with the heroine who meets him at her college's, he's like a speaker at her college, and they are very fiery together because Reed, like I said, he's very like powerful. He's a very powerful man. He's used to like getting the way that he wants things, and the heroine is also very fiery, and she just like tells him like it is, and she doesn't like fall for his charms like a lot of other women do. She fights back, and they are great together. Would highly recommend the series. Next one is Claire Kingsley. Claire Kingsley writes a lot of small town romances. I absolutely love her Bailey Brothers series. It's my favorite by her, but I am currently making my way through the rest of her backlist. I'm currently reading her Dirty Martini Running Club series. I think I'm on the last book that's out for that one, and I'm really enjoying them. So I really, really like her, and my book that I'm going to recommend by her is my favorite, which is Unraveling Him, which is a small town grumpy sunshine, like grumpy to the max sunshine romance, and it also has forced proximity. They end up having to live together. It's great. Would highly recommend it. Another author I'm going to recommend who is an Autobuy author for me is Juliet Cross. Juliet Cross writes the Stay a Spell series, which I have read all of the books that are out and absolutely adored them. It is a paranormal romance series that's set in New Orleans, and it follows witches and werewolves and Grimms and vampires, and it's fan-fucking-tastic. And she has this very, very interesting magic system and like political system that is in the magic world of New Orleans, and it's so cool. The characters are so interesting. Their romances are beautiful. I absolutely adore them. I can't wait to read her small town romance that she wrote. She has Bright Like Wildfire. That was hard to say. Which I own and am hoping to read very soon to get a little bit more of a different vibe from her, because the only ones that I've read are her paranormal ones, but I absolutely adore her. The book that I'm going to recommend is going to be Don't Hex and Drive, which is book 2 in her Stay a Spell series. And my favorite thing about this book is that the meet cute of this is the hero hitting the heroine with his car. And I think it's funny. And you should read it. And it's a vampire and a witch. And it's great. Then the last author that I'm going to mention as an auto-buy has been an auto-buy for a very long time, and that is Serena Bowen. I have read the entirety of Serena Bowen's backlist, and I'm on her ARC team, so I do get all of her new releases, so I will continue to read all of her backlist and all of her books that come out. Serena Bowen has a lot of books and a wide variety of them. She writes... she has a small town series. She has hockey, sports romance ones. She has MM ones. She has a series of like security, personal security ones, like bodyguard style ones, and they're great. She has a very large backlist and writes a lot of different things, but they're all very fun. They're all really great characters, and the one that I'm going to recommend is going to be Brooklynaire. I think it's still one of my favorites by her, and it is about a hero who is a CEO of a tech company, think like a la Apple, and he is very nerdy. He is not very great at the whole like public persona thing, and he would rather just like sit in his room and write code, but he has become a very successful tech guy, and he's like a billionaire, and the heroine is his used to be his personal assistant, but now runs the hockey team that he owns, which is called the Brooklyn Bruisers. And one day the heroine steps onto the ice, slips, and hits her head, and the hero ends up having to take care of her, and so it has great caretaking, and it's so good. I would call it like, it's like CEO assistant, but also friends to lovers, because they've worked together for such a long time. They do have like great friendship vibes, but I absolutely love it and would very highly recommend it. So that's the last one that I'm going to mention, because this video is getting long, but I have multiple others that I could say, but that's what we're going for right now. I know that there are authors that I didn't mention, and I feel bad, but I don't want to have this video be really long. But that's gonna be it. So I hope that you find an author from this that you like. Please like this video if you liked it, and subscribe so you can see more content from me. And let me know down in the comments below who some of your auto-buy authors are, and a book that you love by them. But that's gonna be it. So I hope you have a great day. Bye.